This is the knife I've been using for most of my whittling projects for the past year or so, so I thought it would only be suitable to make a little review and go through some of the pros and cons of this knife. Okay, so this particular model of the Swiss Army knife is called the Explorer. And there's quite a lot of stuff in here, as you can see, but since this review is from the point of view of whittling, we're not going to need most of this stuff. However, I am going to go through what I think are the important parts and then give you my recommendations on which model of the Swiss Army knife you should buy if you are considering to buy one. Okay, so there are two blades on this pocket knife. This bigger one, which is great for some initial rough cuts in the early stages of a project. And then there's this small one that I use the most, which is a very nice and agile little knife. I think both of these blades come in very handy. So in case you're planning on buying a Swiss Army knife, I suggest buying a model with both of these. Now, a lot of carving knives don't have this kind of blade shape. There are some, like the Swedish Mora knife, that has this similar kind of curved edge of the blade, but most carving knives have a straight edge on the blade. A lot of people say that a straight blade provides more stability and is more precise in certain types of cuts. I actually prefer this kind of a blade because I think it's easier to make very tiny cuts with the curved part compared to where the blade is flat. This is very useful for creating a very smooth finish like this. There's also another great benefit with this curved blade, which is that you can make these kind of indents that curve not only to the direction of the cut, but also slightly this way. And although the necessity for this kind of a finish is very rare, I think it's definitely a benefit. Now, like I said a while ago, these two blades are basically the only two useful parts of this knife. This little thing can also be useful if you're making a hole on the wood. But to be honest, there are better ways to do that, so I don't find this quite that necessary. What I do think is missing from this knife that would be a great addition is that little saw. Because sometimes if you're out there in the woods and you're only carrying a single pocket knife, it would be nice to be able to easily cut a branch into a smaller piece. If I didn't have this one already, I would probably buy either the camper or the hiker. But there are also other very good cheaper options that still have both of the blades. One thing that I've heard some people are worried about is how these blades are non-locking. That means that I don't have to press any button or anything like that. The blades go back in with just pressure. This could potentially lead to some situations where you're holding the knife like this, and then for some reason you pull the knife in a way that turns the blade to cut your fingers. Personally, I've never had this problem, and I do think that the blades are quite stiff, and even if they start moving, they don't snap into place except around somewhere here, which means that even if the blade would start moving, it doesn't snap onto your fingers right away. Overall, I think this is a great knife for whittling, and personally I haven't yet found any reason for switching to a different knife.